with number 10. And for this spot, I decided to put Koigyoku here. You could potentially argue that the members of the Seven Seas Coalition could probably beat her due to the overall experience they'd have with their metal vessels, since they've had them all the way back from when Sinbad was a kid. That would be a very fair assumption to make, and I wouldn't blame you. But unfortunately, there's not enough information about the Seven Seas Coalition to make a statement like that. But again, you're definitely not wrong for thinking that. And to be fair, you could probably think that Hakuei would deserve this position more than Koigyoku. But just like before, I have yet another reason as to why I put her above Hakuei for the number 10 spot. So Vanilla is a pretty basic metal vessel. You can control, create, and manipulate water, having the ability to make giant water spikes, spears, or even gigantic tidal waves. Vanilla, similar to Amon, is simple, but extremely practical. If you're by the ocean or a body of water, that would only make you stronger because you'd have more water at your disposal for bigger attacks, giving it a good advantage in multiple scenarios. Unfortunately, I can't think of any advantages that Paimon would have, outside of the fact that in certain scenarios, maybe air or wind could beat water. We get a good example of this when Sinbad uses Folklore against Koigyoku when they duel, and he conjures a tornado to simply blow away Koigyoku's extreme magic. Now, making a tornado and blowing away a tidal wave, Paimon could easily do the same exact thing as Sinbad here. Create a tornado and blow away any water that she makes, including her extreme magic, until you realize that the man that blew away this extreme magic is Sinbad, the man with the most Mogoi in the entire series. So thinking that Hakuei could do something similar is kind of a foolish assumption, and that's not taking into account that it seems as if her Mogoi is on the lower end of the spectrum. She ran out of Mogoi in the beginning of the series while fighting an army of the Ko Empire. I feel like if she tried to do the same thing as Sinbad did, despite the fact that she might have gotten stronger as the series progressed, she would get destroyed by that same tidal wave. In fact, I think it's very impressive that Koigyoku was even sparring with him. And this isn't even taking into account that when Koigyoku saw the medium damage Koen, she was barraging it with constant attacks, and was the first person to even damage it, surprising her brothers and even Alibaba, showing everybody that it was possible to defeat it. As for the number 9 spot, I have Koha, with Larage as his Djinn. Not gonna lie, Koha easily has one of my favorite abilities in the series, making a gigantic sword. Outside of me nerding out over his ability, I put him above Koigyoku because obviously he does have better sword skills than her. In fact, his sword skills are amazing, as he absolutely decimates pirates with magic tools at their disposal. The offensive and defensive capabilities of his sword are absolutely ridiculous, having the ability to decimate armies or groups of people in a single slash. At one point even, he uses his sword to split an island in half, absolutely decimating the rocks around him. He even reacts to the blast of a dark Djinn and blocks his shot of heat magic to save part of his army. And with a full body Djinn equipped, he can manipulate gravity and squash his opponents to nothingness. Even simple slashes from Koha's scythe can put enormous craters in the ground. With his sword skills and destructive capabilities, I think he's perfectly fit for the number 9 spot. As for the 8th spot on this list, we have Koigyoku and Koha's older brother Kome. With his metal vessel Dantalion, he can manipulate space by transferring it from one location to another. Now it's kind of hard deciding who was stronger between Kome and Koha, but I decided to choose Kome because not only does he have a lot more experience, but his metal vessel offers a lot more versatility and destructive capability. He can easily transfer a mountain from one location to another, dropping it on top of his opponents. Even though Kome himself says his Djinn isn't geared towards combat, the way we see him put it to use would easily make you think otherwise. With his portals, you cannot touch him. Any long range or close range attack will simply get sent right back at you. Not only can he just simply transfer your attacks right back at you, but he can overwhelm you by transferring mountains and other objects in the environment at you. He practically nullifies anything that you could possibly hit him with by returning it right back to its sender. He's so skilled with this ability, he can do this with multiple transfer circles at one time. So if push really came down to shove, if you were in the middle of attacking him, he could easily counter with another transfer portal and then just hit you with another object while you're trying to attack him. We don't know the extreme magic of this Djinn, but the fact that it can casually, without even trying, pick up a mountain and drop it on somebody, I think it's safe to say its extreme magic would probably be much better than Koha's or Koigyoku's. This guy's such a beast. While they were fighting the medium, he was able to transfer attacks from 3 different fighters onto one opponent. I think he's a perfect fit for the number 8 spot. For the 7th spot on this list, we have somebody very special, and this would be Sinbad's arch nemesis, Barbarossa. He could easily be higher on the list because he's one of the very few characters that have multiple metal vessels, and one of them just so happens to be the kryptonite of every single metal vessel user, the Djinn Glaciolabilis. This Djinn has the ability to manipulate metal, and considering the fact that you use a metal vessel, he can actually manipulate that as well. He can decompose your metal vessel by creating a mist, degrading them to a particle level, or if you were to clash with his sword, he can decompose your weapon on impact. But not only this, he can turn metal into a liquid-esque gel substance, generate it and use it for both offensive and defensive capabilities. And this is all with just his first Djinn. With his second Djinn, he literally shook the entire island of Sindria and could have potentially submerged it if he would have had enough Magoi, because his second Djinn Gujin allows him to manipulate the plates of the earth. But unfortunately, upon activating this ability, he was gravely injured. In terms of firepower and the fact that he could simply destroy metal vessels, he could, again, like I said before, potentially be higher on the list. But unfortunately, if you know Magoi manipulation, he'll no longer be able to destroy your metal vessel, and we see this when him and Sinbad clash one last time. He may have increased strength and durability since he is combined with multiple dungeon creatures, but personally I feel like Magoi manipulation would make it so that his abnormal defense and strength wouldn't even matter. For the 6th spot on the list, I chose Mu Alexius. Not only does he have superhuman strength as a Finales, but he is also the strongest swordsman in all of the Liam Empire. This dude is an absolute menace. With the combination of these two things going for him, it's hard to believe there's more to talk about. If he is the strongest in all of Liam, that should say a lot in itself. But unfortunately, back to the topic of Mu being a Finales, he is a half-breed, so he's not as strong as a full breed. Masaru, Morgiana, and the entire Finales Corp are stronger than him because they are full-bred Finales. In a sword fight, he probably mopped the floor with all of them, but maybe in a physical fight, not so much. With the exception of Morgiana, because she's busted. But half-breed or not, his strength is still monstrous. With the power of his metal vessel Barbatos, he can manipulate space, allowing him to tear through enemy defenses like nothing. In fact, a special ability of his sword is the fact that it can pierce through anything in an instant. It's so strong, he was even able to break through the medium's barrier. When they say it can break through anything, that is not an understatement. Up next for the number 5 spot, I have Takeru Hiko. Now, I put him above Mu for multiple reasons, despite Mu having literally a weapon that can pierce through anything. I put Takeru over him for multiple reasons. Let's just say he's built different. During the war with the Ko Empire, the moment he appears, he puts an end to the entire war, making one sword slash and sniping Kome, hitting him all the way from his headquarters. And he's not even using his full Djinn Equip. At one point in time in the story, Sinbad gets complete order over the world for 3 years and doesn't allow people to use metal vessels anymore. Takeru was against this, and he's one of the very few people who ran off with their metal vessel. During this time, this 3-year time span, he was training on the Dark Continent and taught Hakuryu how to fight. and this would put him in a completely different league than Mu Alexius, and does not have any experience or training from the Dark Continent. This guy is so strong, he literally carries around his entire kingdom with him, and was able to fight both Hakuryu and Judar at the same time. Up next we have Koen, one of the very few users that uses multiple Djinn equips, and he has the second most in the series, 3. Astaroth, Phoenix, and Agares. This would also mean that he has the second largest pool of Magoi in the entire series out of all the Metal Vessel users. With Astaroth, he can conjure white flames that burn endlessly unless he wants them to stop. And with this, he was able to destroy all of the Dark Djinns in seconds, coating the medium in white flames, not allowing any more Dark Djinns to be created during the war between Liam and Magnostad. With Astaroth, he can use his same fire for combat, making it simple for him to easily incinerate his opponent. With Agares, he has the ability to manipulate the earth, allowing him to use this magic for both offensive and defensive capabilities, and can practically give him an endless pool of Magoi because he can always get more by using Agares to dig to the center of the earth and absorb Magoi from lava. And with Phoenix, he has the ability to instantly heal almost all ailments, including mental attacks the user might be under. With his great experience in battle, and being one of the very few characters to actually be capable of rivaling Sinbad and making the Ko-Empire a threat for the Seven Seas Coalition, I think that should say enough about his capabilities. For the third spot on this list, we have Hakuryu, and Hakuryu is the second to last in terms of the characters with multiple Djinns on this list, because he has 2 of them, and they might be some of the most broken Djinn equips in the entire series, Zagan and Belial. With Zagan, Hakuryu can make any plant he wants, but not only this, he can create any plant from the Dark Continent as well. And these plants from the Dark Continent are some of the most broken tools to have at your disposal in the entire series. It was one of the sole reasons as to why he was able to defeat Arba. With being able to control almost every and any plant possible, you would think that would be enough, but Hakuryu can create an army of microorganisms to fight for him, creating life out of thin air. And this ability allowed him to overthrow the Ko-Empire. This, alongside Belial, probably the most broken metal vessel in the series, considering its magic is based off of the same magic Solomon used to seal away a god. Belial is so broken, it is a one-hit kill Djinn that can cut off your senses permanently. One swing of his scythe can end you. But not only this, Belial can make you hallucinate, create illusions, and rewrite your memories, having the ability to manipulate all 5 of your senses. And this is not taking into account that he was trained by Takeru on the Dark Continent, fought the strongest swordsman in the entire series, and actually defeated her. It's time we give Hakuryu his due respect. And on top of all that, Hakuryu can use Magoi manipulation. For the second spot on this list, we have Alibaba. Similar to Barbarossa, Alibaba can counter any metal vessel in the series because Amon is the Sword of Dissolution, meaning that he can cut through any metal vessel if he wanted to and break them. Unless, of course, if you have Magoi manipulation. Despite Barbatos having the ability to cut through anything, pierce through anything, Amon was one of the very few things it couldn't cut through. Alibaba was trained by one of the greatest swordsmen in the series, Sarkhan. He gets so skilled with a sword, he even surpasses his master. And that's not including his royal swordplay fighting style. With Amon, Alibaba can create a sea of flames and blast away his opponents with a flaming vortex. At the end of the series, he creates a maximum magic, strong enough to swallow the armies of both Syndria, Liam, Ko, and the entire kingdom of Heliohop. But not only this, what makes Alibaba absolutely unmatched is the fact that he has one of the most broken abilities in the series, if not in anime in general. And that ability is hyper concentration. His senses are so sharpened, he can experience a single moment as if it were an eternity. It's basically stopping time, but he's not stopping time. It's just that his brain is moving so fast His accelerated perception is making everything around him stop and move in slow motion. He can see how to defeat any opponent, no matter how strong they are. No matter how fast or how strong you can possibly be, he can process that moment for an eternity and counter it. As for the #1 strongest metal vessel user, I bet you guys didn't see this one coming. It is Sinbad, with the most Magoi in the entire series, the singularity himself, the user of 7 different Djinn equips. It is a no-brainer as to why he's #1 on the list. Not only does he have an ability similar to Alibaba's, where he could see the flow of fate and read the waves of his enemies. His power is almost like looking into the future, and we see a display of this when he's with Drakon in Baal's dungeon, or the moment when he was first born and pointed in the direction in which his parents should go in order to leave the island and escape the volcanic eruption that suddenly occurred. Sinbad has 7 djinns, each with their own broken abilities, and he's capable of destroying countries at the age of 16. I could talk about every little thing that Sinbad is capable of, but honestly that needs to be its own video because that would just be way too much. And this is not even including the fact that he becomes a god at the end of the series. Now, with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to leave a like if you like Magi. Don't forget to comment and recommend what videos you want to see. And I will see you guys in the next Magi video.